Hey, this is Duane from BBR Motorsports. We're out at the BBR test facility today doing suspension testing, pound and lap, so we thought we'd let you guys in on some of our bike setup secrets. Here's a couple of tips on how to get it set up right. One of the first steps when setting up your suspension is to sit right in the middle of the bike, pull the front brake in, and bounce up and down, and you can tell right off if the bike is set up pretty evenly, if it goes down, front and rear together. That'll get you started. One thing that you want to remember about suspension setup is you want to get it stiff enough so that the bike isn't bottoming all the time. You see the mini bike guys with their foot pegs sagging, their subframes bent, cracked frames. It's because they're bottoming out too much, and a lot of times they don't even know it. Yeah, if you're not sure you're bottoming your fork or your shock, you can run a grease mark up and down your fork leg to check it. Go out and ride it, and you should have 1 to 2 inches left here if you're not bottoming. You want to make sure you use your full travel, otherwise you'll have the benefit of all 8 inches of travel, for instance, on this bike. If you're only using 3 or 4, then the track's going to be beating you up, so you want to make sure it's going down and bottoming at least 1 time per lap. If the front or rear suspension is bottoming too much or not going down far enough, then you need to choose a different shock spring or fork spring. Once you have the proper fork spring or shock spring determined, the next thing is the rebound screw, and on most upside down forks it's right on top. If you screw it in, it slows the rebound down, how fast the forks return. And the compression screw is down on the bottom of the fork, and if you screw that in, it slows the compression down, how fast the fork goes down. If you screw it out, it returns quicker. This is what most modern mini bike shocks look like. The rebound screw is on the bottom, and if you screw it in, it slows everything down. It slows how quickly the swing arm returns. The compression knob is on the top, and if you screw it in, it slows down how fast the bike goes down. And when you're setting the sag, you can turn the preload ring here, and it spins in and out to adjust the height of the bike. You tighten the spring, holds the bike up, makes it steer sharper. You loosen the spring, and it lowers the bike down, choppers it out, makes it steer slower. Probably the most important part of setting the rear suspension is setting the sag, and you just pick a point on the swing arm and a point on the rear fender and measure it. In this particular case, this one goes up to 20 inches. So you measure from there, and then you have the rider stand on the bike while you have somebody else measure, and it should go down approximately 2.5 inches. Less sag makes the bike actually steer sharper because the bike goes down not as far, so it's more like a tricycle, if you can imagine that. The front end's more straight up and down, so it steers sharper. So for like an indoor track, you'd only want 2 inches of sag, whereas an outdoor track, a real fast, choppy one, you might want 3 inches of sag, where it goes down further and choppers the bike out, slows the steering down. The fork adjustment is kind of the same as the sag on the rear end. If you slide the forks up in the clamps and lower the front end, the bike steers sharper, which is what you want to do for indoor tracks that are real tight. And on outdoor tracks, you want to slide the forks down as far as you can so that it choppers the bike out and slows the steering down. Suspension setup on mini bikes is super critical, even more so than big bikes, because you can feel every bump. And if you bottom these things out over and over, they're going to break. But if you get them too stiff, they're going to handle horrible and throw you all over the place. So mini bike suspension setup is critical.